you so much for being there on Slash 105.5 FM. It's 22 minutes past 8 o'clock. By the way, here on Beyond the Surface on the Morning Splash, we are taking a look at the legal implications of the recent revelations made against the members of the National Assembly by the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Godswill Akpabio. I have with me Barrister Richard Mondo.
Natha-Alade.
Okay, great. I was careful. All right, so far you've helped us understand that there is something wrong by using one's position, especially as a federal lawmaker in Nigeria, to influence personal favors to yourself because of the office. You say that goes against the Constitution.
It's
schedule.
Yes, it's against the Constitution. Particularly the 5th schedule of the Constitution.
5th schedule of the Constitution. And
which stipulates code of conduct for public officers.
Okay.
What the do's and don'ts of all public officers as described under that under the constitutions includes members of National Assembly, the presidency, the governor, their deputies, all persons in employment of government, either of the federation or that of state.
Is there any other thing they're allowed to do, though, out of curiosity?
The only exception created under paragraph 2.
Yes.
They are not allowed to do business, to get contract, to get anything whatsoever. But the only thing they are allowed to do is farming. They are only that is the only exemption given to them. So any other thing they do, they cannot even own a business.
Until they have vacated office.
Until they have left office, yes, they cannot own a business.
So that we've been able to substantiate then that there is a valid claim against the lawmakers in this instance.
Of course.
What I want to ask you, Barrister Richard Mondo, is that some people believe that Akpabio self-indicted himself by giving that testimony and calling the lawmakers out in that way. Do you see any indications of that? Well,
I can only see a blame game and that of an accomplice. Because if Akpabio is naming names, which means he knows of it, and is the minister in that category, then so automatically that means that personally too, he has breached the code of conduct for public officer. He's a minister too, and by definition, he is also considered as a public officer under the code of under the Act and under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So automatically, he's self-indicting and at the same time indicting on the side of the National Assembly members.
Yes. Would it make any difference if investigations by the Ethics Committee of the Senate discovers that all the contracts purportedly given to the lawmakers were satisfactorily completed? Would it make any difference?
Well, we are in a kind of country that we don't value values, and we no longer place emphasis on integrity and good conscience in the interest of the populace. You know, by the oath of office, you are to defend the Constitution. You are not to allow your personal interests to override that of your official duties. You are to uphold the tenet of the Constitution. You are to be in the forefront warner of people who are going to do the best for the country. But unfortunately, the reverse is the case. And as you touching your question as to if there's going to be any difference, well, I am optimistic there should be a difference. Because for this first time in history, people seems to be accusing themselves and making counter accusation.
You don't get the question.
Yes, okay.
Seeing what the situation is, lawmakers are not supposed to get undue advantage based on the positions that they occupy, right? Yes. So now, Akpabio has alleged that he got this contract. Some of these contracts, we've been told, were never even mobilized. The contractors were never mobilized to sites because monies were not given. So I'm asking, if the investigations reveal that the lawmakers got these monies, yes, it came to them, it came to companies affiliated to them, and those companies executed the project, would it make it right? That's it. Does that make any difference in the case that, okay, yes, it's better for me to do it myself than to give somebody that would not execute the job. So I collected the contract, I did it, and the project is there, you can go and verify. Would it make any difference? Would that?
No, there's no difference. You see, you cannot build something on nothing and expect it to stand. Number one, there is a law that says that you can't partake in something or you can't do something. So if you breach it automatically, you understand?
Whatever the outcome is,
you are guilty. You are guilty because by provision of paragraph 12 of the 5th schedule, it states that any infringement or any infraction or any violation of the code of conduct for public officers shall be referred to the Code of Conduct Bureau. And if it can be referred to Code of Conduct Bureau, the Code of Conduct Bureau under that same 5th schedule was established by the Constitution under I think paragraph 15. And by that paragraph 15, it established the Code of Conduct Bureau, and under paragraph 18, it gave specification as to power and functions, what they can do. By implication, the Code of Conduct have some powers under the law. And as regarding National Assembly members who violated the provision of this Code of Conduct, the Code of Conduct for public officers, they have the Code of Conduct Bureau have the power to, if they are tried accordingly. You can remember Saraki's case, Onoge's case, and many of all these cases that were before the Code of Conduct Tribunal then. They have the power to ask that National Assembly member or lawmaker to vacate his office. They have the power to disqualify him as member of National Assembly. And they have the power to forfeit all his property. They can make such orders under the law. And if at all, that is if at all, they even perform it. They perform the function because they breached the Code of Conduct for public officers. And if at all they don't perform it as well, they didn't perform the functions as specified, you collected the money, that is fraud ordinarily. Then that leaves us to asking the security operatives or the people empowered, yes, including EFCC or anybody, to take over prosecution and jail the offending officer of the National Assembly. So automatically, it can make a difference if well channeled and are well followed.
Okay, so I want to find out, we seem to be in a deadlock now. Akpabio has given his list. Yes, the Senate, the House of Representatives are saying they will investigate further, particularly the Senate. They have constituted their Ethics and Privileges Committee to investigate all the allegations raised in this issue. Under the law, given whatever the outcome of that investigation, what should be the next line of action, and who should carry out that action?
Well, you like as I said earlier, by the provision of Constitution, the National Assembly have the power. They have the fact-finding power. They can investigate. They can audit accounts. They can ask people to come and record at least or show what they've done or account for whatever they've done over the years. And if they have such power, well, the only thing that I can say is that when you are constituting panel, you put people of proven integrity, people that you know that are not indicted in any way, that are not for when anything happens, at least they are not part of, because as you see, like the chairman of the NDDC now, who was presiding over the panel before, is it Tony Ojo? I've forgotten his name. Tunji Ojo. He have to recuse himself because there was an indictment that from Ponde that he also is corrupt and is part of the people who benefited unduly. So he has no moral standing or moral standard to preside over that panel. So things like that. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that anybody who has going to be in that panel can do anything that are necessary to make sure that they are not indicted and they are clean. So if they come out and they sit over the panel and they concluded, then the next thing is to forward their recommendation to the House. And if they forward their recommendation, then automatically it's either they refer their case to the Honorable Attorney General to take them to the Code of Conduct Tribunal so that they can explain one or two things. Let them explain, let them claim themselves. And if there are any other criminal, yes, because Code of Conduct also have power over criminal. Yes, they have the power, but at the same time, the regular court also can assume jurisdiction to entertain anything criminal that comes with your executing your duty.
So it will depend on who the National Assembly forwards the reports to.
Well, yes, at times but naturally they forward their recommendation, and if they are forwarding their recommendation, naturally is to all concerned body, especially they can tell the Attorney General of the Federation to take up the matter, and they can recommend to the EFCC to do necessary things, or even the police, and at the same time they can also, because anything they are doing they must copy the presidency of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So automatically they can do.
But what you're seeing so far, do you have confidence that this issue is going to be executed according to the law to a reasonable conclusion?
Well, I want to believe. You know, in this country, we are only hopeful because a lot of decadence is in the system. So many things at times that starts well is not all that ends well. When you see them making counter accusation and accusations against themselves, at least it's a good start in the history of this country. I don't think that has ever happened, ever, that a minister will just sit down and accuse fellow members who are in the same party and start saying that this, you too, you are guilty. You too, you are. You see, a lot of things are happening now. People are speaking up. And if they are speaking up, then automatically, what is the next line of action? Is to follow it to logical conclusion. But I hope that the people who are involved and the people who are supposed to at least make it happen, we have the courage and the guts to do the things that are needful. And in the case of well, I don't want to miss Magu case with this case anyway.
Please,
so
let's not.
all
Let's
the same.
not.
Thank
but
you.
In the instance where they do not, the National Assembly doesn't follow this as far as Nigerians are hoping, as you say, that they do. What are the options? Does it die a natural death, or can an independent party, like say civil society organizations, decide to take up the case and maybe file something against the National Assembly?
Well, it is possible. They cannot file under the law. You know, when you are prosecuting, it's the state that prosecutes. If a person wrongfully offends you or does something that is wrong against you, you are not in the position to prosecute that person. You report to appropriate body who are going to prosecute that person. And that is why we have established law. That is, and when they are being prosecuted, the Federal Republic of Nigeria versus so. Or they say that the state versus so, or EFCC versus so, or any prosecuting body, they have that power to use their name to prosecute on your behalf. So you are not the one prosecuting, it's the state that is prosecuting on your behalf. So the national or the coalition forces or any other prayer groups, cannot single-handedly say, I want to prosecute. That is not possible.
But they can pressure.
The only thing is they can mount prayer. Okay. Then the other option available is under Section 69 of the Constitution. Most of the people who these people are representing have the power to recall any honorable members who has committed any infraction for lack of confidence in such legislature. So if they want to recall, the only thing required under the law is to forward the petition to members of INEC. So to forward a petition to members of INEC, to the chairman of INEC, that this social person, and it will be signed by one half of the people who are eligible to vote in that constituency. And once that is signed, then within 30 days, automatically there will be a referendum. And if there's referendum, if it's true, remember what they do to Dino Malaye that other time.
So we saw how it all went.
It's quite unfortunate that we are in the lawless.
Is that really an option when we know that there are other ways of circumventing these things? Would you say it's a valid option?
It's a valid option. The only thing is that when those things have been done, because I remember Dino Malaye then went to court and was asking for an injunction to stop the entire process. And under the law, it's something that is time bound. When something is time bound, you have 90 days to do. You understand? To finish up the process. And if you are now going to court, automatically, no court should ordinarily assume jurisdiction over that, because it's in clear terms that this is what you are doing. Then after the whole process, if you can't use the court to frustrate or foist illegality on the people. After the whole process, if the whole process is now wrong or is not done in accordance with the law, then you cannot challenge it that this is an infraction or some other things has come out. But it's totally wrong. But we're in a situation, we're in a country where people just go to court and nothing comes out. You see, some lawyers should ordinarily be hammered. If you are an advanced judicial, you lose your license for some things some lawyers don't do in this country. So, and automatically, some of all these things shouldn't go scot-free, because accordingly, you are to advise your client. You have the duty to advise your client appropriately and to tell him what is what and what is good and what the provisions of law provide for, and advise him honestly in accordance with the law. Anything outside that is a breach of professional ethics as a legal practitioner. So, like I said, it's quite unfortunate we're in a very lawless society. and anything goes.
Initially I was going to ask you if you think these revelations by Akpabio is a blessing or a curse, but I think you already covered that because you mentioned that this has not happened before, and these revelations, even though they may not be followed to a reasonable conclusion, information that Nigerians perhaps would never have known about if this hadn't happened. Yeah?
Yes.
So we should consider it a blessing, regardless of whether it's concluded.
What I want to say is that things,
or not.
at least things seems to be improving. Like I said earlier on the radio station, that this is the first time that people are opening up. You see, people in the same party,
when
people
you say
in the same
people,
yes, people in government,
political office holders,
that they are indicting and counter-indicting themselves.
Okay.
And for the first time, they seems to be blowing. I mean, they opening the Pandora's box. So a lot of things is happening, unlike before. That a particular party or a party will form coalition, they embezzle in unison, they protect each other, they make everything happen the way they want it. But now people are speaking up, and either we like it or not, Ponde can never be the same again. Most of all these people that are indicted can never be the same again. And for the first time in history, we are, like I said earlier, we are all these Yahoo boys. We are all these politicians that are throwing money about.
But when you say they would never remain the same again, that would have to depend on how conclusive the investigations are, and if they are removed from such positions. If we go through these motions and Ponde remains, and everything remains the way it is, would you say it really affects the status quo?
Well, I don't want to believe that Ponde will remain. If Ponde remains, then the fight against corruption is defeated. Naturally, by now, he ought to have been suspended. He ought not to be on that seat for now. Because those are part of the issue we have with the then SCJN of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Honorable Justice Watanoge then. And if at all you are found wanted in a way, and you still occupy that, because you can compromise investigation, you can do some things that will make sure that will cover up for you. And if you are still occupying that position, then automatically you can frustrate the course of justice and the entire process. So by now, I don't see why he's still in that office. He ought to have been suspended.
Interesting. With the way the things are playing out, Barrister, who between the Senate and the House of Representatives, in trying to figure out, the end result of this, who would you say is doing the most? The House of Representatives or the Senate?
Well, I want to believe that. Well, I don't want to say who is doing most or who is not doing most, because until they come out with their reports.
No, given the action so far that we've seen from the two chambers, that's why I'm asking. The last thing I heard about the House of Representatives was the report was stepped down because they couldn't get copies across. Yes, they made some recommendations, but the Senate has gone ahead to ask that its Ethics and Privileges Committee goes ahead and investigates. So it seems like the momentum in the two houses are not exactly on the same level.
Well, I wouldn't want to assess it in that way. Because both of them are still under the law. They have the power to investigate. Okay. Either jointly or independently. And if they've chosen to perform their duties, until we have an outcome that we can say that is concrete, we cannot. It's too early to judge them or to say that who is performing better. Somehow, some way, both of them are sitting doing their preliminary, findings and investigation. And if at all, after everything, they will now see the process, how they forwarded the recommendation, how they passed their resolutions, how things that they did after. That is how we can now say this person has done better. Because it is easy to compromise. Some of them will start well, and at the end of it all, they will still end in a very terrible manner. So it is better we wait for the outcome from both houses, or from those chambers, that we can now say that this is a logical conclusion, and this house has performed extensively better in the fight against corruption.
Let me now switch the question in another way and ask, if you had the opportunity to advise Mr. President, say if you were the Attorney General, and you were to give legal advice to the President as to how to proceed after investigations, what would you likely be telling him?
You see, one thing we follow another. until we conclude. The recommendation is funded. I mean,
you already said investigation. At this moment, we are certain that they contravened code of conduct laws. So that is fact, is it not?
Yeah, it is the fact.
Based on that, and some other facts that are already obvious at this point, regardless of whatever the outcomes of the investigations are, based on the facts that prove that these people didn't exactly follow the rules, what would you be telling the president?
If I were opportune to be the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation, by now we'll have taken up the case, and if possible, refer them to the police for interrogation, and let them also do independent findings and investigation. And after the investigation, if it's concluded that there are infractions indeed, then automatically, all these things are still allegations. We cannot conclude that is the fact until the investigation is concluded, or they have no explanation to whatever indictment that is placed on them. Then after the outcome of the investigation, then we can now say that this is so. In the procedure, you refer to the Inspector General of Police to investigate. Then after investigation, if they come out with concrete proof that yes, these people indeed committed infraction as provided against the provision of the Constitution, then the next thing is prosecution. Simply
so invariably, that's what we should, in your opinion,
yes,
see from the Attorney General.
They should be arraigned before the Code of Conduct Tribunal automatically. So that is it. It's as simple as that.
Interesting. How does this whole thing play on, in your own opinion, how does it play into the anti-corruption fight?
I can see we are, like I said, you see, Rome is not built in a day. We have never found ourselves in this kind of situation before, where all public officers and people are speaking up and raising accusation and counter-accusation against each other. This is happening the first time in the history of this country.
Does that make it a good thing?
It's a good thing in a way, because somehow, some way, everything is being exposed. And anybody occupying that office tomorrow, we always know that there are records and there are people watching. And anybody can blow his or her own alarm.
Some allude that it points to disorganization in the ruling party. Well, so not exactly. If they were more organized, we probably would have been seeing.
Like I said earlier, there was a party in this country that that whenever they are united in corruption. They protect each other. They do things in unison. They make sure that all persons within the confines of the party are protected. But if it's not playing out now, why will you now say that it's because everything is for our own benefit? The money that should be for you, for your children, and for your children unborn are being cornered and siphoned and put somewhere and be spent anyhow by one person. Then it's wrong. If anybody is seeing it from that perspective, there is a disconnection within the. Then I think I appreciate Mr. President for allowing people to do their job. If you have a counter application, bring it forward. Look at Malami against CFCC chairman. Look at most of all of them. All of them are trained accusation, and we are all enjoying it. So somehow, some way, if any else role, in a way, is for their own benefit. But what matters is that anybody that is watching, some of the people now who act as spectator, if they are going to be player tomorrow, somehow, some way, it will guide them in a way. Whether we like it or not, it has its own positive effect. And I appreciate President, instead of covering up or asking that no. It's possible for the Mr. President to prevail over members, to ask them not to speak up, and anybody who speak up will be fired automatically. But if he shows the part of the people and allow them, that's what we call democracy. So automatically,
in your opinion, the president has chosen the part of the people. That's why he's allowing.
That is why he's allowing. Yes, he gave them free hand.
Interesting.
That is my own opinion.
Barrister, you have been very helpful in shedding light, at least from your own personal perspective, regarding the law as to how this all plays in. I know this is not something I said we're going to talk about, but I want to at least get your opinion on the NBA elections that held, national NBA elections and the outcome. Earlier when I was going through the headlines for this morning, Premium Times captured one headline that really got me curious. NBA election 2020, non-SAN outsider in huge lead as president. For those of you who are lawyers and we're following this development closely as we wrap up now, what were the intrigues in this?
from time immemorial, from time in history, SAN has always been the president of the NBA. Well, if people have chosen this time around to say that they prefer a person who is not an SAN, that is their voice has spoken. What matters is that person is it credible? Is it eligible? If it's eligible, then anybody can be voted for. If I attain a certain age, then I can also aspire to be the president of Nigeria. So that is what has played out, and people have spoken.
Right? We don't have time, but I'm looking towards maybe next week. I'll get you back in, and we'll talk specifically about this and surrounding intrigues around this election. But it was a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much
for availing us your wealth of knowledge. That's the show for this morning. Thank you so very much for being a part of it. We appreciate you, and we hope to catch you again next week when the Morning Splash will return. My name is Charity Jerome. Go ahead and have yourself a very cheerful celebration.